Welcome to the Silvopasture at Rising Locust Farm. We have two silvopastures. This is our smaller one that we've been grazing for 3 years across the road. There's one that's 6 or 7 years old now. And our goal with silvopasture, which is a pasture with trees, silvo meaning trees, is to really restore the ground to the state it used to be, pump fertility back into the ground. We're basically doing ecological restoration with trees and plants and animals. So the way that works best is plants being eaten by animals and this continuous cycle of grazing that kind of mimics what happened on the prairies. So every time a plant grows, it grows a lot of biomass above ground. It's also growing the same amount of biomass underground in roots. And then when a sheep or a cow or some other grazing animal comes and eats a third to half of that plant, a third to half of the roots die back into the soil. And that creates a whole host of food opportunities for microbiology. So bacteria, fungi, protozoa, nematodes, all these different soil creatures have this buffet to eat. And so that generates this whole wonderful underground ecosystem that ends up building soil and building fertility for the plants then to grow more abundantly year after year. So this cycle of grazing and trampling and then rest for a long time so the plants can regrow, and coming back and grazing and trampling again really restores soil health closer to back to what it was before we started farming and in the ways we do right now. So this pasture was a conventional cornfield 3 or 4 years ago. It's now a pretty diverse mixture of grasses and clovers and chicory, dandelion, whole host of other native plants. This whole cycle of soil health and plant health then corresponds to better livestock health, which then corresponds to better human health if you're consuming animal products. This is our shade structure. That is a temporary piece of equipment that we built, and we move it to their pasture every day to provide shade so they stay cooler in the summer. Once the trees are very large, we won't have to move this, which will be incredible. It's an inelegant way of providing shade compared to trees, but in the short term, it provides a lot of health benefits for our cows, and it's pretty necessary. This is our mineral feeder. We provide free choice minerals. We have salt. We have a mineral mix that has everything a cow would need to build a strong body, and we provide kelp that has a lot of trace minerals, so it really supplements what might be missing in our pasture that they're not getting from the grass or the chicory or the clover. We use electric fencing to move our cows every day, and portable electric fencing is really wonderful because it allows us to set up a pasture of various sizes, various shapes any time of the year, and that allows us to make the cows and sheep behave as a herd, tightly bunched, as animals on the prairie would if they were being pressured by wolves or some other predator. The herd instinct is a response to predators, and what happens when you have predators or electric fencing that keeps them tightly bunched is they will eat and trample and poop all over a small area. That creates the right conditions for the grass to then rebound really quickly when there's manure and urine and a very even grazing over the whole thing. And so we don't come back to that spot then for 50 days, maybe 30 in the spring, maybe 60 or 70 in a drought. And basically that's how grass evolved to grow. That's how cows and sheep and bison and all these other herbivore ungulates evolved to eat. And so they're forced to eat quickly together and move on to a new space. And how we use it is it's just this plastic wire with steel filaments that hold the charge from a solar or electric or battery powered charger. It just creates a very simple barrier that's portable, lightweight to carry. Electric fence works by creating a psychological barrier for the cows and sheep. They will touch it once, maybe twice early in life and learn that it doesn't feel good, and then they'll respect that fence as long as you keep a charge on it. It ends up being a really simple, effective, and safe way of keeping them in a small group and getting that herd impact and herd instinct back. So the tree component on pastures is really important too, and something that most farms are missing right now, but there's a growing movement to plant trees on pasture. And the main reason is shade. Providing shade for animals is really critical in those summer months. Trees also have huge root systems, so they're able to send sugars down into the soil and build soil to a much deeper level than grass plants or vegetables or most of our common commodity crops. Some of the trees we planted put nitrogen in the ground. That's a really important element for plant growth. Often conventional farms will apply nitrogen fertilizers, which are pretty awful when it comes to soil health. We'd prefer to use biology to have plants grow when they want to through a community of soil health. Most of the trees we've planted, which will be 2,000-ish on the pasture, are for fodder, so animal food. So their leaves are edible, and we can cut them in the summer during drought. We can cut them and store them over winter as hay. And we can just feed them directly or let the cows prune them once the trees are big enough to withstand scratching. And they all provide slightly different minerals, nutrients. Black locust is kind of like clover in tree form. Poplar is like grass. Mulberry is really, really tasty too. Honey locust and some chestnuts, they'll provide pods and nuts that will be dropped in the fall for sheep and cows to eat, or people to eat as well. So that's a really big food source for our animals in the future. Shade, and just, once again, soil fertility. They have deep, deep root systems that are pulling up minerals and water and making a much more diverse, robust ecological system. Trees are the future of Rising Locust Farm,